The Book of Shadows. What secrets lie upon its weathered pages? What untold horrors reside inside its leather covers? Well, none, because it's a journal. You've got to fill it in yourself. It's by NOMAD. It's pretty cool. Yes, hello, welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and as that little intro showed, we're going to be looking at two rather interesting journals sent to me by NOMADcraftco.com. These were sent to me for review. I did not pay for these, but I am not being paid for this review, just so you know. So, these are two really interesting journals. You can tell just by the style of these that they're not your typical leather-bound journal. They're by NOMAD Crafts. I will link to the Amazon store in the description box below. I will also link to NOMAD Journal's website in the description box below. But bear in mind that these two journals are much more expensive on the NOMAD site. So if you want to get these, if you're interested in these, you should probably follow the Amazon links. They are significantly cheaper on Amazon. But let's talk a little bit about these journals, about some of the features here. They are leather bound, as you can tell by the way they look and the way they smell. You can't smell this, but I can, and they smell delicious. They are, these particular journals are 9x6. They're also available in 7x5 inch or 11.5 by 8.25 inch. This particular one, there are several different names involved with these. On some listings, I see them called the Book of Shadows. They're both called the Book of Shadows. This one on Amazon, or actually on the NOMAD site, is called the Vintage Leather Journal with Key Deckle-Edged Antique Journal. Don't worry too much about that because, like I said, I will link to both of these on the Amazon, on their Amazon store pages. And this particular one, also, as I mentioned, is the 9x5 or 9x6 version. This one is the vintage brown, but it's also available in green and red brown. It's $59.95 for this size on the NOMAD site, but it's $39.95 on Amazon. And that's for 240 pages. Some of the features here, it is made of cotton and jute canvas. It is acid-free, pH neutral, so apparently almost archival, apparently also very good for watercolor. They claim that you can use pretty much any kind of ink, any kind of pen. There won't be bleed through. We'll take a look, we'll see. I've got a trusty Lamy 2000 fountain pen here. We're gonna try a little writing, see if there's bleed or show through in these pages. If we look at the pages though, there's the leather wraparound with the little key. Let me show you that a little bit better. You can wrap around, go through, and then secure it with the key, which is kinda cool. These definitely have a certain aesthetic to them. They're going for sort of a medieval look, maybe a fantasy look. They talk about on their website, stylishly medieval, ancient-looking rustic cotton paper combined with the beauty of distressed leather, hand-stitched by artisans, creates a keepsake you will cherish forever. Makes a great gift. So, before we go into all the real nitty-gritty as far as the stats and features of these journals, I would probably not use these, personally. That's not to say that I'm in any way judging anyone who thinks these are cool. I actually think they're cool. But when I think about using them practically, I don't know that the aesthetic really appeals to me. This particular one is the burnt deckle edge vintage paper handmade leather-bound journal. So if you can see the difference, the edges of the paper, one has sort of a burnt finish to it and one does not. They are both that aged cotton and jute canvas paper. I think the aesthetic is really cool. I just don't know if practically I would want to carry one of these around. They are rather large. They do have the smaller size, the 7x5. That might be something I were more into. And these are 240 pages, so they're a sizable, very large journal. But that being said, the fact that maybe I'm not into the aesthetic of these journals, I can definitely imagine a lot of people who would be. I know people within my own life, people who are close to me in my family, who I know would absolutely love these things. I think they're very cool. Just to get it out of the way, I don't know that aesthetically I would be into actually using these all the time, in spite of the fact that I do think they're very cool looking. Sorry, I'm trying to throw away a piece of fuzz that was on my desk. Just to me, maybe they're a little bit much. I usually go for things that are more understated. But let's get into some of the features here. We have the antique paper. Like I mentioned, it's a cotton paper, canvas jute, cotton canvas jute. I don't know the weight. If we open one of these babies up, it feels, let me get my caliper fingers here. It's really hard to say. I'd say maybe 80 GSM. And it seems as though it would be fairly strong, fairly resistant to tear. We're gonna check out whether or not it is actually resistant to bleed through and show through when we try out a fountain pen on it. They make the claim that you can use any kind of pen. They say a calligraphy pen, a fountain pen, a brush pen, a ball pen, acrylic colors, watercolor, and more. If you could actually use this as a sketchbook, a journal, and use it to paint with watercolors, a dip ink pen, ink and brush, that is extremely versatile, because usually you would have, I have sketchbooks that are just for watercolor. I have sketchbooks that are just for, you know, sketching with a pencil. I have sketchbooks that are just for writing, or journals that are just for writing, with specific paper that I know will take fountain pen ink well. This, if you really can use all of those things in one, that is really versatile and really cool. And of course, 240 pages in here, that is a lot of surface material for you to actually use. So that's very cool. The leather on both of these does seem to be really nice and really durable. They do say it is a naturally tanned, full-grain leather. Oh yeah, it smells good. It doesn't seem as thick as the leather on, say, like a Midori Traveler's Notebook, but it's still a fairly substantial piece of leather. The edges are unfinished. You can see sort of the raw edges here. They're not burnished edges or anything. But it's very substantial. It seems like good quality. It seems like it should last. They say that it is hand-stitched, the binding. And if I take a look here, there are basically these leaves of papers that are stitched together, and then they are stitched to the actual leather as well. You can see on the back where they actually use these leather strips to secure these leaves of paper. And the good bonus from that is that when you're actually using this, things will lay down pretty flat, especially when you get to the end of a leaf and you start a new one. You don't have to worry about the whole thing just kind of bunching together and wanting the book to close constantly when you're using it. So that is a nice feature as well. Let's take a closer look at just how the paper has all this modeling, different coloration. It definitely does look like 1,000 years old, as though this was something from the Middle Ages that has been brought into the present, which you can use to write upon. So you've got a well-made, sturdy, sizable journal. Fairly good price, $40 if you're getting them on Amazon, $40 for both of them on Amazon. The one with the key on the NOMAD site is actually $59.95. This one, the one without the key on the NOMAD site, is $69.95, but on Amazon, they're both $39.95. So you definitely know what choice you want to make there as far as saving a little bit of money. So well-made, copious amounts of paper, a really nice surface to write on, to draw on, to perhaps even do watercolors or ink drawing on, and an aesthetic that to me might be a little bit ostentatious, but to a lot of people I think would really, really appeal. If you're into, I don't know, Harry Potter, if you're into The Lord of the Rings, if you're into going to Renaissance fairs or doing historical reenactments, even as like a film prop, these would be really, really cool. Or if you just think this aesthetic is cool, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who do, this would just be a great practical journal to use. So let me get out a pen. It is a fountain pen. It is filled with ink. And I'm going to just write on the first leaf here. This is a Lamy 2000. This is a fine point, so it's not super thick. It's not gonna throw out a bunch of ink, but I'm just gonna make some little doodles. The paper has nice feedback to it, which I like. It takes the ink well. Let's just see here. I have written some things. Oh, wow. There is absolutely no show through whatsoever. You can see how it has taken the ink. And if we turn to the other side, there is no show through whatsoever, absolutely no bleed through. And looking at that, even some of the really nice fountain pen papers that I have, even if there's no bleed through, you'll often get some show through. And even when I put this up to the light, you can barely see a little bit of it coming through. But that's actually quite impressive. So I would be very comfortable in saying that you could use a medium, a broad, nibbed fountain pen, putting out a lot of ink. I think you'd be fine. I do think you could use this with watercolors. You could use this with a brush, dipping it in ink and sketching or drawing that way. I'm pretty impressed with this. I think these are pretty cool. NOMAD has a fairly sizable Amazon store. They have quite a few different styles, quite a few different journals available. These happen to be ones that on Amazon are called the Book of Shadows. They're both called that. But like I said, I will show you, or I will include an actual link to their Amazon store. I'll link to the NOMAD store as well, or to the NOMAD website, just so you can take a look at some of their other things on there as well. But I'm pretty impressed. These two NOMAD journals are pretty damn cool. And the price is not bad. For the amount of paper you're getting, a nice high quality leather bound journal, not bad at all. For $39.95. I don't know if I would go for the $59.95 and the $69.95 on the NOMAD website, but on Amazon, not bad. These are pretty cool. NOMAD vintage leather journals with decal-edged papers, one with burnt edges, one without, but does include a key for closure. Yeah, I like them. If you want to check them out, there is a link in the description box below. But until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things. I'll see you later.